All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ginette Biro podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and as always, thank you so much for joining me on the show as we dive into all kinds of things. And today we're going to talk about this Mercury retrograde period that we're entering. It starts September 9th and 9th until the 2nd, I believe. 9th until the 2nd. So let's talk about this because there is a lot of negative energy around Mercury retrograde. It is known for technological mishaps, miscommunication, things not happening. And yes, there is a correlation to that because I've definitely experienced that myself too. So there is that. But a lot of it is also really based on perspective. And the reason why Spirit was encouraging me to talk about this, and of course, when I say Spirit, I mean my guides, is they're saying perspective is so key. And I did talk about that in the September energy update. I talked about perspective and how important that is. This really is going to be one of our foundational pieces as we move through the fall and just forward, period, is recognizing our perspective and realizing that you are really in control of that perspective, right? If you don't like the perspective you're seeing something from, how can you change it or change your actions to create a perspective you do like? It doesn't mean you have to like the situation that's happening, but your perspective is key to the energy that resides within you. That is always of your control. And that's something that my guides keep reminding me about for myself too, which I think is quite lovely because I'm seeing it in action. How much control we have in our own journeys when we realize we are co-captains with the universe, right? We both have a front seat in co-creating the way in which we wish to experience our world, again, based on perspective. So the reason why they were like, why don't you talk about Mercury retrograde? Was because, again, we have this narrative that it is such a negative, but it doesn't have to be a negative, right? So they're saying one really good idea is to observe reality right now with the ability to change lunges, not lunges. Oh my gosh, lunges. Do some lunges. No, they're talking about lenses and with the ability to change lenses. Again, that perspective. If you don't like it, change it. It's kind of like, rolling with life, take it with a grain of salt kind of thing, that sort of thing. See reality, the 3D reality is that. And remember that at any moment you can step back from the whirlings going on and maybe learn something different, see another point of view, or again, change your perspective. This will help you not get so caught up in the whirl of 3D that really seems to be amplified with Mercury retrograde, because again, everybody following that energetic structure that because it is Mercury retrograde, things will go wrong, okay? Now, there is, though, a lot of tension in the air, and that's because, first of all, we have a lot of energy moving forward with September, which we talked about. That's a good thing, but Mercury is opposed to both Neptune retrograde and Jupiter retrogrades, and Venus is opposed with Saturn retrograde. So what that just means is a lot of energetic tension, these like pulls and so on, and so really consider all of those energies at play, and then essentially you shake them off and you come back to what is true for you. Okay, don't get caught up in the whirl of 3D. So, what you may notice in this retrograde coming up in general is things that seeing things through lenses of your old patterning, old programs, and old narratives that you've had. And again, they're just coming up for review. So if you see something or feel something coming up again and you're like, I thought I was over that, I don't want to feel it anymore, it might simply be coming up for you to recognize it and be like, oh, you know what? I'm done with that. And it can be that simple. I know for myself, I have had things come up before where, that energy of that thing or the event or whatever it may be comes up and I think, oh no, I don't want to deal with this again. But then when I let it have a presence and I was like, what do you want here? I realized that that no longer has a hold over my energy. That experience, that fear, that whatever it may be, taught me something really valuable. I pulled and gained the lessons in gratitude from it, even if it was hard. And now I'm moving forward. So that energy rearing its head, I'm like, nah, I'm kind of over it. Thanks. And it just fizzles away. And it's no longer a part of my narrative now. So that's a really powerful thing to keep in mind with this retrograde and the old woundings or patterns that come up is they may not be accurate anymore. So if they're not accurate, let them go. And that's a freeing thing, because another piece of this theme that we have with this movement forward for the fall is being freed up from old things that don't apply. So that's a really cool thing. Again, checking if that perspective is accurate now, or is it a different lens? Again, change your lenses or clear your lenses, clean them. And then maybe do some lunges while you're at it, because you know what? Why not get some fitness in there? Oh goodness, I'm a comedian. I was joking to my husband on a little side note the other day. I was on a roll, and sometimes I get on these rolls of humor, and I don't even know where it comes from. And we were talking about my life and how, I was a singer for a while and a kinesiologist. And, there's always this undercurrent of mediumship. And he's like, "You're quite the comedian, aren't you?" And I was like, "I'm really a comedian because I can make light of mediumship things." So we're joking about me being a comedian. So maybe that's coming through right now. I don't know. Anyways, carrying on. Okay. So some of the other themes for Mercury retrograde is breaking the chains. We kind of talked about that, those old lenses, but also ancestral patterns that no longer fit. So you're kind of not only are you breaking chains of your own experiences in this lifetime, but you're breaking chains of ancestral patterns. So kind of like ingrained family narratives or ingrained ancestral narratives that maybe aren't even something that's spoken, but it's an underlying theme that's been carried down in generations, right? And so noticing where those patterns are and allowing them to come up and break them. And some of those may be codependence. Maybe there's a strong codependence aspect to your family and it has always been that way, right? Maybe there is an anger narrative through your family. Maybe there is like I talked about, I think last week, maybe there's like a healer narrative, but that healer has to be by being a doctor or a nurse or something, but you want to go into more holistic healing. Again, breaking the ancestral patterns that maybe aren't known, but when you open to a greater perspective, you might see that. So consider that. There's a lot of healing that happens for you and also the rest of your family lines that come from you, but even it ripples backwards from before you. A lot of healing can happen when change comes in. And so the encouragement with this Mercury retrograde is don't dim your light to fit in. Don't dim your light. Don't discount your strengths and your knowledges, your areas of curiosity, your areas of natural intellect, things that you know, and your experience. Don't dim your light because we all have value here. Even if someone's opinion is different than yours, it doesn't mean you need to dim your light. You can openly converse in an open-minded intellectual conversation where you take the time to hear everything from their perspective, but then also be willing to share your perspective, because it's really the sharing of ideas which allows us to create really beautiful things on the planet. New ideas, new constructs, new ways of doing things, new initiatives, all that kind of stuff comes from those that are willing to share their light, that are not going to dim their light because they perceive themselves as less than someone else, right? I talked about this before in a video I saw it come up on Facebook a year or two ago about if not you, then who? I was like, yeah, gosh, that's such a great reminder. If not you, then who, right? What makes you think you are not as valued as somebody else in what you know, what you've seen, what you've experienced? We all have things to share, and there's value in that. And so, Spirit with this retrograde is saying in this period of reflection, or, if things are miscommunicated, maybe it's giving you an opportunity to see how you can communicate with more clarity. Maybe you need to step up into your power a little bit more, to stand in your truth and have that energetic resonance to move you forward and express whatever that may be. So, really something interesting to consider there. Now, the other one is we're going to be asked more too in this energy of answering our deepest callings. right? With the different planets in retrograde and that push pull and that tension, the tension pulls on parts of us that need awareness. And so, in many ways, it's pointing to what is your deepest calling? Have you been answering the call of your sovereign self, your warrior self, your king or queen self, right? Your purpose and your reason for being here, because we are all here at this time, living in this time of great change for a reason, because of what we can heal, offer, create, all of those kinds of things. So, are you answering your deepest callings? So, what Spirit is saying is take this opportunity with things that come up to review if you feel in your highest alignment with self. Okay. And here's the really cool thing is if you do, and you do feel that alignment, this like frequency balance of flow and forward movement, when you feel that is oftentimes, not only, okay, but oftentimes when your spiritual gifts and abilities can really show themselves. So for those of you that are really wanting to open, say, mediumship, your psychic gifts, any of your clairs, your empathic ability, healing, whatever it may be, when you follow the steps that get you into more alignment with self, it gives you more space to open your spiritual gifts. It's this beautiful correlation of energy. So definitely take advantage of that and notice what's coming up for you. Even if sometimes what's coming up may seem far-fetched, or like that worthiness piece comes up again and you're just not quite there, allow it to show itself and note it. And I'll give you an example of this. So years and years ago, I remember when I knew something significant was happening with me with mediumship. I knew I was seeing spirits. I knew I was getting information, but there was a part of my left brain that still couldn't wrap my mind around it. It's funny. It was these two like oppositional roads of thought that didn't know how to blend together at the time. And so I remember I went and I saw a medium that someone recommended. And I didn't go for a reading, but I went to talk to that medium to ask him questions about mediumship. How does this work for you? What does it look like? What does spirit look like? All of these things. I peppered him with questions, and he was so gracious to, I think we talked for about an hour. And we talked into Tim Hortons. I remember this. And by the time I left the table of the Tim Hortons, in a feeling of like, oh my gosh, so much of what he's saying is the same for me. Oh my gosh, wow. By the time I left the table and I got to pushing the door open, got outside and in my car, by the time I sat in my car, I cried because I was like, that's not me, that's him. I'm just still, you know, crazy, not worthy. Who do I think I am thinking I'm a medium? Who do I think I am to have this connection, even though that's an innate connection for all of us? We all can communicate with spirit. But in my mind, it took me a while to recognize that I could also have this ability. And I was so quick to squash it. But the more I took steps in my alignment following that day, it took several months. But I remember every time I acknowledged something or healed something or made space for something or gave myself time to notice something and validate it for me, even if I didn't share it with anyone, it allowed more of my gift to come into alignment and show itself. It just continued to grow. And so now I look back at that moment really fondly because I was able to see how ingrained the limitation of the human conditioning is. But at the same time, in understanding that, I can have empathy, hold space for those that are going through that stage right now. As many of you, I'm sure, who have been at that stage and where you are now, you can hold space for those that are doing what they're doing now, right? And we are at such a big precipice of change. We're actually in the change. We're not even on the precipice anymore. We're like in it. That more and more people are opening up to a higher consciousness, to a recognition that consciousness is huge. Consciousness is where humanity is going. We have to open up. It doesn't mean everybody has to be a medium, everybody has to be a healer, but we have to open up. Yeah, Spirit's saying it's like a crescendo right now. So when I say we have to open up, they're like, it's like a crescendo. The energy is growing into this crescendo that it's going to make awakening happen. And the more open-minded we are to that, the easier it is to let it flow versus fight it. So, in this Mercury retrograde, the more that you can take advantage of what comes up can show you where you may have old narratives, like I said, old limitations of just human conditioning of the old paradigm. And the more you recognize that, the more you pause, the more you have a moment to reflect on what it is, the more you can then make your conscious choices of what you want to do different. How do you want to heal that? What do you want to think differently? What do you need to do to make amends, to let go, or to step more fully into your power? What does that look like? Right? Maybe for some of you, stepping more fully into your power is something as simple as taking 5 minutes to meditate in the morning before you just start getting all busy on your day. Right? That's an act of self-love that lets you step into your preferred energy signature for the day. And it can be as simple as that. So, answering your deepest calling is a big thing. Ancestral patterns, rewriting those energies, not dimming your light to fit in, and allowing Mercury retrograde to show you something new or something that is so incredibly ready to be let go. And as well, the usual Mercury retrograde things, communications, tech issues, all of that. You know what? The more you let it roll, the more you can just not get caught up in any of that stuff and move forward. I had a friend one time say that Mercury retrograde really gave her an opportunity to reset. And I thought that was really cool. And so I really embraced that the next couple retrogrades. And I found it was a great opportunity in reflection, right? In reflecting on the things that come up. Take time to go a little bit kind of hermit mode, if you will. Like the Hermit card in tarot talks about going inward to find your light and make it brighter, and then step with that light out into the world. And so I think that's a great opportunity for all of us right now. So I hope that helps with a little insight on Mercury retrograde. Again, it's from September 9th to October 2nd. So see how you can make the most of it and really enjoy the journey of it and giggle, laugh, do some lunges with the any hiccups that happen. Let it roll off your shoulders and move forward. All right, everyone. We'll leave that with you. I hope you guys have a beautiful week. And yeah, definitely check out avalonspirit.com for more insights and awakenings on your journey. Also, the Lightworker Mentorship Circle I'm starting September 11th starts. So if you're wanting to deepen your connection with spirit and you want to do that live with me, you can. We also have an online recorded version as well that you can purchase too. So that's another way to do it if you want to do it on your own time. So I'll leave that with you guys. Oh, last thing is check out Spirit Coffee Talk. We are back at Spirit Coffee Talk again. So check out Spirit Coffee Talk. It's on Fridays on the Avalon Spirit YouTube page. So if you haven't checked that page out yet, definitely do and subscribe. And if you are new here on this YouTube, please do subscribe and share. And also if you're listening on any of the audio platforms, thank you guys so much. I sure appreciate each and every one of you. Your comments, your encouragement truly fills my heart big time. And so I give you such a humble heart gratitude. So I hope you feel that. All right, everyone. I'll see you guys next week.